All right. All right, everybody, we're going to call this meeting to order. Val, please call the roll.
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Villa?
Here. Welcome, everybody, to the October 4th, 2022 City Commission meeting. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please stand for the invocation and continue standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you pray with me? Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today to ask for your guidance. We ask for your blessings on our city. Dear God, thank you for protecting all of our citizens and residents here within our city. Dear God, help us to rebuild, help us to help those people in need. Dear God, please bless all the first responders and the linemen that are still out there working to get all of our power on. Dear God, we thank you, and in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you for that. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to go to number 2, extending the current local state of emergency. That's number 1 on our agenda, Resolution 2022-R-82. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, extending the current local state of emergency for another 7 days, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Before I ask for a motion, do you have anything to add to this, Brian?
Yes, Mayor. So last Tuesday, you approved a resolution adopting a local state of emergency under our own emergency management plan. And as you know, this gives the city manager or his designee the ability to do things like go outside of the normal purchasing boundaries, modify work hours, assign different tasks and things of that nature without going through contract negotiations or union negotiations. However, it's valid for only 7 days, so this meeting is to request an extension of the local state of emergency for another 7 days while we continue our efforts to clean up the city from Hurricane Ian.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, we'll open this up to the public. Yes, Ms. Heidi.
Hi there, I am Heidi Heller, 460 Ridgewood Avenue, and we survived mostly the storm, but thank you very much. Just some basic questions. How much money was already spent, if there's an estimate? How much money is projected to be spent? If there's another estimate, is that information available for the public to look at? Talking about funding, assistance to the state, are we also going to be getting FEMA assistance or federal assistance? And is any of the assistance guaranteed, or do we have to go through our budget? I understand from a while ago, Mr. Forte mentioned they have $300,000 in the hurricane budget. So I don't know for sure if I heard that correctly, or is there any money for that? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heller. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Curry, a second from Vice Mayor Penny. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. And Heidi, we're about to speak about that in 1 minute, everything you asked about. Now we're moving to number 3, temporary waiver of building permit fees for Hurricane Ian. It's Resolution 2022-R-83. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Volusia County, Florida, providing for a temporary waiver of building permit fees for anticipated repairs to building or structural damage caused by Hurricane Ian, providing for an intent and purpose of this resolution, providing for a filing period of eligible building permit applications, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Mr. Walker.
Yes, Mayor, this resolution is to propose the waiving of building permit fees for permits that are pulled by homeowners. This would not cover contractors, and it would only be for work that is directly related to repairs that are needed because of hurricane damage. So many cities have adopted resolutions of this type, and we think it would be a good thing to provide the homeowners who are trying to get repairs done a break.
Brian, we did this last hurricane, right?
Oh, yes, we did,
Yeah.
yes.
Vice Mayor?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. It doesn't mean they don't need to pull a permit, they just won't be charged for the permit. Is that correct?
Correct. The permitting process would still be in place because when a permit is pulled, it triggers the inspection process. We still need to make sure that folks are connecting electrical correctly, that they're doing plumbing correctly, that any structural repairs and things of that nature that are being done according to the Florida Building Code. That what all this would do is would mean that if you are a homeowner and you come in and you want to assume the responsibility of doing your own repairs, you would not be charged a permit fee, and this would apply again for the homeowners only, but not for contractors.
I think there's a major misconception in the community that when these emergencies happen, you don't need a permit. I don't know if we can communicate that through our Facebook page or anything. Hey, you still need a permit, not gonna charge you, make sure you do it the right way.
Yes.
People do anything, you hear, oh, I'm just gonna fix that, I don't need a permit.
I think you're right, because I hear that a lot, too.
Brian, can a homeowner get a contractor to do the work?
A homeowner can get a contractor to do the work, and there are certain types of work that contractors would have to do anyway. But if they do that, the contractor would need to pay for the cost of a permit. And the reason for that is because many communities have found that when a contractor is given the ability to not pay for a permit, they're not passing that savings on to the citizen. The citizens never know. They hire a contractor, they will often charge a fee for pulling the permit, and those cost savings, when the contractors don't have to pay for the permit, are not passed on to the homeowners. But we also get many permits where homeowners come in and pull an owner-builder, and when that is done, that homeowner would not pay a permit fee. And we'll get something out on on Facebook today clarifying that a permit is needed.
That homeowner's not allowed to do electrical or plumbing, right?
The homeowner is allowed to do that if they pull the permit, but they would have to then have it inspected, and it would have to meet their
So
provisions.
they can actually do their electrical or their plumbing as long as they can pass inspection
Yes,
themselves.
Yes.
without a contract.
correct.
Any other questions?
Yeah, that's good.
Any other questions for staff? Brian, too, I know that this commission, the last hurricane, well afterwards, we passed an ordinance about boards being up on windows, that wasn't allowed because it was happening, 6 months to a year after the fact. So we still have that in effect, correct?
Yes.
And how long did we give for them to take off?
I believe,
Do you remember?
from what I recall, I believe for hurricane damage, I believe it was 90 days. But we can always, the building official can always extend that if he finds that there is a need, especially in times like this where it's going to probably be difficult for some people to get windows.
Right.
And because of the supply line issues that existed even before the hurricane. So we can definitely
Good.
work with the public.
That's why I was asking. if people need to have it still up for a certain,
Yes.
reason.
We'll make sure
we
that
can
the
bend
citizens
on
have
that.
the time they
Okay,
need.
good. All right, any other questions? Let's open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Johnson and a second from Commissioner Danio. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now, before us, we have a report here. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for putting this together. I asked for a status update and damage update of what's happening in the city. And Commissioner Curry, I know you have to leave soon, so at any time.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. The floor is yours, Mr. Walker.
So yes, the damage assessment teams have basically finished the sweep of the city with regard to homes. Damage operations and mitigation continue with Public Works. So I have the Public Works Director here who will talk to you about the roads, the parks, pier, and things related to the city infrastructure. And then the chief building official had two teams that went out and assessed damage to homes. So I'll ask the chief building official if he can come up and go over with you the information regarding the homes within the city and what he found during his damage assessment.
Perfect.
Brian, who is the damage assessment team? It's internally, or did an outside agency come in and do this?
No, the damage assessment team is internal, and it consisted of our fire marshal and the supervisor for code enforcement, and as well as one of our code enforcement officers and the chief building official. They have a system through the property appraiser's office called IDEM, and they use that system out in the field, or they either get their notes out in the field and then come back and update the IDEM system. And that system compiles not only the types of damage that are out in the city, but also assigns a dollar estimate to those repairs. So it is an internal team, and that is what the building official will go
And
over.
was this already reported to FEMA?
This has already been reported to the county.
Okay.
And-
they
and-
go to
right.
FEMA? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right, Mr. Lee, the floor is yours.
To answer some of your questions on it, the IDAM is a program that was done through, it's actually nationwide, but it's used through this Volusia County's emergency management system. It is a real-time, real-life damage assessment of it, and this has been given to FEMA because our stuff goes from us to Volusia, then Volusia gets it to them. What you have before you right now is actually the results of our damage assessment. You'll notice on the maps, you have green, yellow, and orange boxes. Each one of those mean, like your green is affected. That's examples, gutters off, a shutter is off, things like this, maybe a shingle or two is done. Your minor is things that we saw where somebody's aluminum screen front may be ripped off, it could be twisted, you've got metal roof, you've got shingles, and your major kind of deals with structural damage, except for the case of two orange squares on these maps, which are our mobile home parks, Holly Forest and 460 Ridgewood. What that is because of it being one parcel, the county takes that and takes our information and puts it together, and then once it starts adding up, it comes in as a major. There were no structural damages in Holly Forest except for aluminum structures, screen porches, little day rooms on the front. The actual mobile homes themselves were pretty well intact, except for roofing. And then your structural damages are going to be, some of the orange smaller squares you see are going to be tree impacts, trees down on houses. We got a couple that's got some where the end of the house, the gable got hit real bad and the gable came off, but the rest of the roof is good. The table that you see is how it broke it down in real time. You'll notice that we have a grand total of 440 affected homes within the city limits of Holly Hill, coming out to approximately $16 million. Now, this monetary that comes up here has already been configured inside the program. It knows when you choose affected, that's roughly 10% of the market value of the house. 20%, and this whole thing ties into the property appraiser, so it pulls all of its information from them. It's a pretty sophisticated system. And you'll see out of all of our numbers, 305 were affected. We had 119 in minor, we had 16 major, and out of those major, 4 of those was the government buildings, which would have been the public works, that situation. And we had no destroyed. By looking at the maps, if you look at the two plates together, it's broken down from Cali Grande all the way down to Mason, and then Nova to Riverside. And you'll see a path almost just about Carswell State. That was mostly due to all flooding. And that's where most of our affected comes from, is minor flooding, anywhere from 2 inches. A couple of commercials on State got up to 32 inches of water in it.
We don't have a breakdown difference between flood damage and wind damage, do we?
Right now, no, we don't. There's a couple of them that we do know of. The majority going down like the strip on State up there near Hartford on the second page map. That whole green area coming from the Public Works all the way across between Magnolia and Commercial, that was all flood damage. All of that green, every bit of that was flood damage. The one moving over from Commercial to Hartford, just above, again, that's all flood damage right through there. And then you'll see some spots up around where it says Pinecone Circle, 10th Street, the little green spots and a couple of yellow spots, those are structural damage. We started noticing a pattern once we started getting them all in here that it was going down streets, and it was mostly what was near some of the canals. But in a nutshell, that's what we have.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, this was truly a water event. Most of the damage that we find was flooding. Most of the issues that we had were related to flooding. I think and the Public Works Director can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think within a 48-hour period, we had about 22 inches of rain. So it's a lot of water. 24. 24. So that is the report that concerns damage assessment for homes within the city. And if, Antoine, you could please give them an update on city property.
As Mr. Curry's coming up here, do we know how many people are not able to go back to their homes because of flooding? How many are dislodged? Do we have access to that information yet?
We don't have it in hand as of right now. For our area, it didn't seem too bad because like I said, most of the flooding we saw was just a couple of inches. It receded. Friday afternoon, when we finished doing some of the damage assessment, it was just a couple of places. It was mostly commercial. By Monday morning, we revisited those spots that we could not get into, and all the water was gone.
Okay.
But what we could see, everybody was back in their homes.
Okay.
Again, the highest points that we did see were not in residential, they were in the commercial, and it was the low-lying commercial warehouses that strips right along from LPGA onwards on State. That was some of the highest areas that we have found there and over on 10th around Carswell.
Vice Mayor.
I just want to comment on that, Mr. Mayor. The majority of the people that are affected are not going to have flood insurance. My experience with the people in my office that do have flood insurance is that they're getting inspected very quickly by FEMA. The problem is that with a flood policy, there's nothing called additional living expense. So if your house were to catch on fire and you had to live in a condo for 6 months while your house is being rebuilt, that's typically paid by under your homeowner's policy. Well, even if you only had 3 inches of water in your home and it's receded, all your flooring has to be taken out. At least 4 feet of the drywall has to be taken out. Anything touching the floor is taken out. Your house is completely rewired. And that's going to take at least 90 to 120 days. You're not going to be able to live in the house during that time. So there's going to be a huge need for temporary shelter for people in our community and the entire state of Florida.
I didn't realize that flood insurance didn't cover that.
You know,
Wow.
insurance companies.
That's the federal government, buddy. That's your federal government.
Does everybody have power? Everybody got
2% is still out,
still out of power?
150 people. All right, Mr. Curry.
Antoine Coury, Public Works. Some good news, let's start with that.
Yeah, please.
All of our streets are open. The water, like Ricky was saying, all the water has receded. The trees that were tangled in power lines were pushed on the side, but FPL and their contractor will be removing those. The sewer system is still surcharged. The plant never ceased functioning, so we never had an issue with the plant, that or water, the water plant and the wastewater plant. We were pushing about 6 million gallons a day, and as of today, we're still pushing 6 million gallons a day. Our plant is permitted for 3 million, so you can tell how big of a storm we had. The water never had an issue. The only issue is with Marina Grande. Marina Grande had a sprinkler or fire suppression line that was under the dock that got destroyed by the storm, and they were discharging into the Halifax River. We were able to go out there on Friday to shut them down, but the issue with the towers themselves were internal to Marina Grande. That means their pumping system was not able. We had water to them, but they couldn't get it up to the higher levels. We were able to grab a pallet of water, bottled water, from Florida Health, Volusia Health Department, and delivered it on Saturday afternoon, or early afternoon, and they had volunteers from the building to distribute the water. So that's on the plan. Roadways, like I said, we don't have anything that's impassable right now. There's a couple of alleys that has wire tangled up, but the contractor pushed, the FPL contractor pushed the trees out of the way, so they're only functioning. Our biggest issue right now is the surcharge of our sewer system. Lift Station 11 is really working hard. Actually, yesterday we took about...
Where's that located, 11?
Magnolia and 8th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 11 is it receives a lot of water, a lot of sewer flow from three major 18, 16, and 20. So it has capacity issues during the storm. Regular work, we have improved the pumps, and we have a project to improve the discharge from there. We have a contract with a contractor, and hopefully we'll get it done before the end of the year.
Is that going to increase the size of the discharge pipe, or how?
Yes.
Okay.
We're creating a manifold so it doesn't have a backflow, backup air pockets, so that we can discharge out of it. That's the whole improvement of it. And then later during that year, we will be upgrading the pumps again to a bigger size pumps to try to keep up with the flow. We tried every which way to fix 11, and we fix something, and then the big storm comes in, then we have to reevaluate what we need to do. So, but those are planned, and hopefully things will get better. Actually, yesterday we took 6 truckloads out of 11, and today we'll probably do 4 to 6 truckloads, like Commissioner John Penny said. We'll be pumping the manholes on the either side of the station to try to reduce the surcharge. Hopefully, we'll get it under control in the next day or two. This is the worst things we've had. On the parks, all of our parks are open. There is some damage to the parks. The biggest damage is at Ross Point. The dock has been destroyed. We roped it in. There's a couple of poles there that needs to be replaced. At Sunrise South and North and Riverside, there's some light fixtures, either light fixtures or poles that are damaged, but all the parks are functioning. The
How'd
biggest...
the new pier do? How'd the new pier do at Sunrise?
Oh, it's fine. It did its job, but where the connection, and we have the engineer, we sent him some of the pictures, where the old stuff connected to the new stuff, there was some erosion there, and we're trying to assess what caused that and try to...
So is it closed for now?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. The pier is fine.
Okay.
The pier survived. It's where the seawall might have some erosion next to it, so, but the seawall is still intact, no issues there. What else? That's about it, I think. The parks are functioning, everything is working. Our crews are working day and night. Centennial Park had a lot of damage, that's what I was gonna say. Centennial Park had a lot of damage because of the size, more than anything, a lot of trees and stuff are down. The crews are out there pushing out all of that, cutting trees and pushing them out to the curb. We have a meeting today, Brian, myself, and Joe with the contractor to see when they can start mobilizing to start cleaning up C&D construction and debris, and then the yard damage, trees, branches, and things like that.
How was the dog park? Was there a lot of downed trees back there?
Yeah, no,
No?
not that many. We just had to clean it, move it up to the curb, and that's it.
That's one. I have a, well, I'll say citizen who's been voicing his opinion about the pickleball causing extreme damage or extreme flooding because of the structural buildings and all that. Is that a fact? I mean, did that do anything to any of that area to change the flooding and?
No, there's no issues with the Pictona. Pictona is contained. All their stormwater is contained and discharged to the canal.
So nothing that the hurricane did would be worsened now than it was before this was all built?
No, sir. We had, again, 24 inches of rain in less than 48 hours. That's a lot of rain, plus wind. So,
So the way that it's
Right.
designed, just so you know, is that that property, any water that comes in, it has to be able to take all of that in as if there was nothing
yeah.
there.
They're all contained on site. And if it's, and they discharge into a ditch, which ditch is flowing. We didn't have any issues. Actually, we we had pumps going at Hillman Pond, I can't,
Yeah.
Hillman
yeah.
Park. And Centennial Park, we had pumps to dump.
Heyman.
Heyman?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
that's right, yeah.
Shirley
I'm
Heyman.
thinking Holman from here, Milton.
Okay. Yeah, so,
Vice Mayor?
another issue.
I know we had a little overflow, we got an email at the
Yes.
sewer plant, and self-contained, so no big deal. But I've been noticing on the news, Titusville, Melbourne area, they're showing the backup of sewer and drain out of the manholes like we're experiencing here. And they're talking about EPA fines. Are we subject to any EPA fines for those type of failures?
No, if we see, the only manhole is that we're experiencing that, but 90% of that water is rainwater. It's not sewer water. It's our system, our manholes are old, they leak, they get water in them, people pop their sewer, their sewer covers, the clean out covers in their yards to drain their yards. So actually today somebody called us and we went out there and they had the manhole up and said, oh, it's coming out. Well, we checked our side, there's nothing issue. It's their system. So right now, we don't, what we reported is what we need to report.
Do we have any service, so when the manholes stop overflowing, and I know it's 90% water, but that means it's still 10% sewage.
That's right.
And so there will be debris and contamination in people's yards
Yes.
and roads. Do we have a disinfectant spray that we come by and offer people, or how does?
There is a process that we have to go through.
Okay.
To first of all, collect the debris, and then to spray some chemicals to dissipate any, if there's.
So the water has to stop. I mean, would that be
Yes.
like within the next week, we would anticipate that
Hopefully
to
within
happen?
the next few days, yes.
Okay.
If we don't get any rain.
Right. But then,
in the
do we
next
go
2
door
to
by
3
door?
days,
Do we knock on the people's houses, or?
We have not done that because we know the areas and
Okay.
they know us.
Okay.
So we will be out there, and if they have any issues, of
Okay.
course, they can call us anytime.
Okay.
Do we contract that out, or do
No, we
you
do
guys
it
do it?
ourselves. We do it
Okay.
ourselves.
So we have basically a certain amount of,
You still, you throw some chemicals on it.
but I mean, we have a certain amount of troubled areas that seem
Yes.
to be, every storm, this is where it ends up.
Yes, we have two manholes that really is is problematic for us. The 8th,
And we can't do anything about it
that's what I'm saying. The 11th, hopefully, we can take care of that.
oh, I got you. Okay, great.
The 11th work that we're gonna do on the pumps and the manifolds, the discharge, should help.
So my next question, let me preface it by saying thank you, and thank you to all your team there in Public Works. I know that they worked around the clock. They don't get enough credit of what they deserve. Now, with that being said, and I know that your people are probably overworked, are we still having them overtime? I know there's probably still a lot of work out there. Are you still approving overtime or not?
Actually, as of Monday, they went back to 7 to 3:30. So sometimes they work through lunch, sometimes they don't, depending on the workload. But the on-call people, the people who were working during the storm, Saturday, Sunday, had a lot of overtime because of station. FPL tells us that we have power, and then 6 hours later, there's no power to the lift station. So they had to go out there and do certain things. So we had people working through the weekend, but as of Monday, all of our streets and stormwater crews were not working overtime. Only people who were working overtime until 4 or 4:30 were the sewer people.
And the reason I ask is because, and I haven't spoken to Joe about it directly or Brian, but I don't know how the commission feels, but if your people are stretched thin and there's a lot of work out there, I want that to still be approved. I want all the people you can have possibly out there to do the best job, and I believe that will be eventually reimbursed, hopefully by FEMA.
We're tracking everything on the emergency sheets, on FEMA sheets.
Okay.
Everybody who is working is tracking their sheets, including me and other, with our staff that are considered professionals or exempt. We're tracking all of that.
And I trust you know what we need, so I'm not trying to.
No,
I'm just
I know.
telling you that
And
if you think that we need more, and the commission could speak up, but I want that approved, so.
No issues there.
Okay.
I mean, if there's a need, we are there.
Okay.
One thing is, and we're being an armchair quarterback here, because
Sure.
I have, but comments from around the community, and I know we're improving lift station 11, and most of our new lift stations come with a backup generator.
Yes.
But is there any validity, and if money were no object, let's preface that, the backup generator, but also installing an additional diesel-powered pump?
Yes.
So that even when the power is restored, we now have a third large pump that can help those pumps that are cavitating and overworked. Would that work? Would that help?
It helps a lot, and we are on the lift stations, we are doing 19 and 20. That's the kind of pumps we're using.
Okay.
We're using the ones that are diesel operated.
Because that
So
big
when
one over
the power
there,
goes
that big
down-
one at Holman Park moves a lot of water, and if you
Yeah.
had one of those hook up to every lift station,
Yeah.
plus the backup generator, and I know this might be a 5 or 10-year plan to fund it all,
That's the problem.
but I would like, when Joe gets back, to talk to him, let's have a powwow, and let's study this, let's figure out, I know there's nothing we can do about a 500-year flood, but in some areas where we know we have these manhole problems, and we have backup of sewer and drain on a strong thunderstorm, we need to figure out how to stop that. And those are the comments I'm getting from the community, like, hey, how come, and it's all confused, you spent millions of dollars at pickleball, and you can't fix your sewer system. Well, it's two different funding sources, guys, we gotta talk about that, but I think if we should learn from what happened. We did our best, we had some failures, but I think we need to have a decompression workshop where the commission can get informed of this, because every person out there is an expert on the subject.
Right, Of course. right.
Self-proclaimed. And some of these redneck thoughts make a lot of common sense, and then we got to pay an engineer $2.5 million to come up with the same thing. So,
Actually, Commissioner, you're preaching to the choir. We're already starting to do that.
Right.
And, we want
I would like to be part of it. I think the commission would like to be part of it.
I have no problem.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Also, we have a need for another pump that's strictly sewer in case like these things happen. Only thing is, it's not cheap. It's
No, I know, that's the thing, it's the funding source.
$60,000 for that pump, so.
And
And
will the-
we have gotten prices for it, so if there is any savings or anything that we can delay a little bit, we can
And
invest.
will the third clarifier, would that have helped us in this situation?
It always helps. It always helps because now you're processing it a little bit more. But the third clarifier really's purpose is to help reduce the downtime
For the
on other
maintenance.
two. So we can rotate them on a three rotation. One you do maintenance. They're working 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So you want to rotate them. It's like you rotate the crop, so you can do maintenance on them. So that's what the purpose of really the third BTU that we're building. And also, on top of that, we're doing some valve improvements on site so we can help more flow and more stuff. So,
And watching the news, Titusville, they're picking on Titusville right now.
Right.
And because the bay, everything's going out into
Right.
the river, and they're worried about algae blooms and fish kills and all that in the spring because of this. And the spokesman down there said, hey, we're doing our best, but our infrastructure is 30 years behind.
Right.
And it's always funding. And we as humans typically don't prioritize things that we can't see. And I remember Mark, your predecessor, would always the bowels of the city.
Yeah.
No one thinks about it until the bowels are blocked up, and they've been blocked up. And so we're thinking about it now. So
Well-
we have a plan. I mean, but it's like I said, funding, that's the biggest thing, and
my thought is
priorities.
if we act quickly on this, and we're in the state of emergency that we're in, and if we get something put together within the next 30 to 90 days, I would think with the attention to this storm, we might get some federal funding and some federal assistance. If we sit around on our hands and don't do anything for another year, the sense of urgency is gone, and we might not be able to capture those funds. We have a lobbyist at the state level, and we have some connections at the federal level, and so there's a need, and if we I just want us to stay on top. And I know you're going to, I'm just rambling.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And Brian, if you could make a note that we need to look out for any state funding and talk with our lobbyist, as well as Congressman Waltz as well, from anything from the federal level. And to add on to that, and I know the Vice Mayor is not criticizing Public
No,
Works
no,
in any way. 500-year storm will never be perfect for that, but I think it is important to have an after-action assessment, and we all get together, see what could be improved, and everything has a dollar sign attached to it. So then we can look at those dollar signs. What effect would it have had on this 500-year storm? And now moving forward, what can actually realistically be fixed? So I think that's a great idea.
And
Vice Mayor.
I know we just went through the budget season, so it's too late to really do anything right now, but the word on the street is, we need to do this, we need to do that. Well, we may even be so bold as to take out a loan to fix this now and charge everyone $1 million
Yeah.
for the next 10 years to pay it off, like you were talking about,
Right.
a designated millage rate.
Right.
And let the people vote on it.
Yeah.
Do you want to do this or not do this? Let
Right.
them, so,
Right. Well, and let's get all the facts and figures first
Exactly.
and see what grants we could get, and that's definitely an avenue that we may have to look into. So the people require it. Another question I have is, as you know, I received the FDEP reports, and it caught me off guard because citizens were confused on what it actually was, so I got with Brian, and thank you for that assessment of what it actually was. But there were, some misinformation put out there by some citizens that our drinkable water was contaminated in some way, and I just want you to clear that up for the record, that our water system, potable water, was perfectly fine.
Yes, there was no mixing or there was nothing that we did, or the spillage or the leakage we had to do with the water. The water comes from off of LPGA, our wells next to Beyond 95. That is raw water. We get the water from there and we treat it at our plant and it comes out. There's no interaction between water and wastewater.
Good.
Whatsoever. The water plant can be functioning 100% independently. The only thing we share with them is the generator to run their power.
Good.
That's it. No other things intermix. It's DEP. And the issue is what you were talking about is that watch. That was established so people know, because there was something happened in South Florida where a contamination of a mine that actually created a sinkhole, that they lost 7 million gallons of water into the sinkhole. That's actually, it had nickel, and that's radioactive. And that's what Governor Scott at that time made everybody, anything you reported to this site, we report it to DEP, then DEP puts it on that site.
Okay. And was that closed out too? Because the other question was it was still ongoing, but other cities closed theirs out?
We have contacted our inspector, or the DEP inspector for our area, and informed him of the issue. It's
so they have to come and close it out?
Yes,
Okay.
they have to close it. We cannot amend it.
Okay.
And Mayor, to your point as well, with the misinformation that's out there, the spillage that occurred was slight spillage out of one of the equalization tanks.
Yes.
And that remained completely on site. It didn't even make it to the canals. So there was no contamination of the canals, there was no contamination of any drinking water or anything of that nature. It was reported because it's a legal requirement, whether you have a little bit or a lot, and has been resolved and closed out. But there was no contamination of any type of any drinking water or even water part of the canal.
Perfect. All right. Yes, Vice Mayor.
Just trying to get answers to all these crazy questions I've heard, and thank you, Antoine.
Yeah.
During these time of emergencies, when we know the water plant, we're treating 6 million, we're only rated for 3 million.
Wastewater, yes.
Wastewater. So we know that the water coming in through the system is 90% stormwater. Can you ramp up that sewer treatment plant and slightly treat things and discharge them faster than normal? Someone was telling me in a time of emergency and Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey, their water plant was able to pre-treat things and discharge it quicker than normal because they needed to get that water off of the streets and out of the system and back to normal. You ever hear of anything like that?
No, not FDEP. FDEP will
Okay.
not. We have to meet certain criteria when we discharge treated water
Okay,
for reclaimed or discharging into the river. If that's not meets the standards, then you are discharging polluting water. You're polluting the water.
okay.
And that's where the issue is. Last time what happened, the sewer main broke,
Right.
and we ended up with it was not that bad, but, Brevard County dumped 7 million
Right,
gallons.
okay.
into
Wow. Wow.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I heard Orlando was putting out things to not flush. I know that we asked
Yes.
people as well.
Reduce,
Keep
as
reminding that.
humanly as possible, we're asking people
Yeah.
not to flush, so you don't reduce the surcharge, that's all we're trying
Yeah.
to do.
Right.
The last question that I have is about debris pickup. I believe, Heidi, you asked about debris pickup and how that's funded. I know that we have that in our budget now to fund the initial part. I don't know if Ms. Lincoln wants to expand on that, but before she comes up, trash pickup as well. Oh, so debris pickup will start tomorrow.
Well,
And-
no, not necessarily. We
Oh.
are having to confirm. They
Okay.
sent us an email this morning letting us know that they're having logistic problems and it might not be able to start tomorrow. So Joe sent a very stern email to the contractor that
Good.
said, if there's a truck in Volusia County for you, it has to be in the city of Holly Hill. We were the first people who contacted you.
Yeah.
We were the first people to. So we'll have a better understanding today in about 15 minutes.
Good.
And
Amen.
hopefully, we can start early. If it's not tomorrow, hopefully Thursday. If not Thursday, Friday. So they can push and start picking up debris.
And are we still thinking of, we're going to make this first pass and then we're going to come back
Yes.
several days later?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because there are starting to be questions about, when is it happening? I thought it was still going to be tomorrow, so.
The issue is if we don't start tomorrow or when we have a definite date, more people can put more stuff out.
Good,
And then we'll have big push.
good. And then trash pickup is happening today on the
Yes.
east side, and if they don't get
West.
to it all,
I
they'll.
believe it's the west side, isn't it?
East was yesterday. They got
Oh,
my.
west side, I'm sorry.
West side.
West side,
Yeah,
east.
on the west side. The issue because they missed one day of garbage, the trips to the landfill has doubled, so they
Yeah.
might be a little bit behind on the
be
schedule,
catching up.
But they're catching up.
Okay,
And the problem is when they dump your dumpster, it's full of water,
Yeah,
and all that water goes in your parking lot,
yeah, it smells.
and it's
Most of those got holes in it.
terrible. My parking lot smelled so bad.
Dude, they never picked mine up. Dude.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
yeah. Awesome,
Had all the
okay.
juice from the restaurant next door.
Is there any questions for Public Works?
Yeah, when are they gonna pick up my dumps? Oh, my God.
Not them, not them.
Will, they have not picked it up?
They haven't picked it up.
Okay.
I mean, let's just say, as of an hour ago, they hadn't picked it up.
Yeah,
I'll put
okay.
it in the trackies, let them know that
And let me just say on behalf of the City Commission, thank you. Please let your men and women know that we very much appreciate everything that they've done. Seriously, we really, really appreciate it. You
appreciate
make
it
the
too.
bowels work, so it's
Yes.
one of the most important parts, so.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Antoine.
Waste Pro did say, they may not be able to get it all done today either, in which case tomorrow they expect to be able to finish because of the double pickup day, they've had additional tonnage.
Okay. And if you have more for us, Brian, before that, I want to bring up our chief of police. I asked him to just give us a quick update about any law enforcement issues. I know that there was a rescue that you were involved with. If you could just briefly brief us on that.
Good afternoon, Commission, Mayor, Chief Miller, Holly Police Department. I could give you a little, some stats, beginning from Wednesday, 6 a.m. until Sunday, midnight. We did 451 service calls, 34 alarm calls, 157 extra patrols, and these are just the top. 14 miscellaneous calls, 66 traffic stops, 7 arrests, and 20 reports. So the only time we used, which was highly utilized in the Volusia County area, was the high water rescue vehicles that were operated by Orman, the sheriff's office. Edgewater has one, and other people brought theirs in. We responded to an anonymous call received by dispatch to 8th and Orange Avenue, the apartment complex, 438th Street. That area was totally flooded. About a disabled man in apartment 2. There was a power line. Captain Yates and I finally determined that power line was dead, and it was about 3 foot of water, so we finally got in there, and he was on his bed that was totally flooded. He was sitting in it. He was partially wheelchair-bound and walker. He used a walker, so we utilized, because of the paramedics, we could have got him out of there, but the paramedics were not responding at that time, and nor they couldn't have got there. So we called in the sheriff's office, high water rescue, and they had the paramedics, and we all got him out of there. And then Captain Yates, he wasn't, you couldn't see any physical signs of injury on him. He was deaf, and so communicating with him was pretty tough. And so we got him out to the hospital. And once I got him out to the hospital, his feet would really shook me up. His feet were completely white from being in the water so long. But it was, it was a good story, a good outcome. And we did the other one. It initially came out as an apartment collapse, and with people in it. I don't know how that happened. And then it changed over to Cordova. It was a house, but it was a lady, actually a family, and their roof formed a whole softball-sized hole into their the build-on part. So we got them over. We took them over to the concrete part of the house. That I'm not sure that was brick, that part of it. So that was it as far as rescues. But the men and women, like the fire department, like the public works, they worked a lot of hours last week. So. Going to the National Night Out thing, I decided that was me. Postponing it with some talk to some other people. It just, there are others that are having it, so, I'm not going to try to hide that. But for our city, it just is not good time for our people. There was extensive flooding. We went into Holly Point. I did talk to the vice president of Holly Point. They did not have any reports of any flooding of the apartments, but as you know, the apartment parking lot was feet under, and along with several other parts of the neighborhood. So that was my decision with some good input. We just couldn't have it tonight. So
Do we have a rescheduled date?
no, we don't. We will have it, but I don't have it. It's we got so many other things going on right now. It just
Completely support that decision. And plus, out here too, we have debris and all of that. It's still a mess, so completely support that decision, Chief.
Thank you.
Don't shy away from that.
Yeah.
We got to make sure the community recovers before we can have a party. So,
Thank
yes, sir.
Chief, I know several homeless individuals that are well-known to the police department. Have you been in contact with any of them? Are they still around? Did they survive it? Do you know?
Kenny, and I'll leave his last name out, he's well known to many of us.
Kenny's okay. He was at Serrano's yesterday.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's all right.
He just, he's a man of his own, Commissioner. He's a man of his own. The others, they're starting to congregate in the parks again, and they have a will to survive, and they have their own little way. And we approached several of them before the storm. They did not want to go out to the shelter.
Really?
We approached a lot of them, and they did not want our help. And it's just they wanted their way, and it's their rules.
Thanks.
That's wow, surprising to me to hear that. Well, thank you very much, Chief, and thank your men and women as well
Yeah,
for
thank you.
protecting us and standing guard during the hurricane. We really appreciate it. With that, Mr. Walker, do you have more for us?
No, sir.
All right. I have a couple things. We just wanted to talk about the debris pickup, but now maybe we're not getting that. So when we get that word back, if you could please let us know so we
will,
can spread that word.
Antoine just went now to go to the meeting. We'll have a
Okay.
better idea hopefully within the next hour or so, but I will let you know.
Good. And, speaking of the MG, I did visit the MG on Saturday to help out with what was going on. I know Mayor, Commissioner Johnson, you were also involved down there, and I believe you were as well, Mr. Penny. So there will be more that we could talk about as a commission when Joe gets back. It is a private community, but want to make sure that protocols are in place. And as I understand it, there were, but may have been waived and things like that. So we'll discuss that at a later date.
And I believe the MG got straightened out last night because the
Yep.
splicers got on the scene last night. I think they would have been the ones to resolve the problem, so.
Yeah,
I heard anything from us. I'm sure they got it.
it got sorted out last night, and finally the coolers are back up as well.
Prices was involved, they got, C phase was down, so I think we got it all straight.
So here on the latest FP&L hourly report, we have 7,690 customers, 7,540 are back on. That leaves 150 customers out, which is 2%, which I think is pretty great from FP&L.
5 days after an event.
Yeah, major event. So let's hope that the rest of this 2% get put back on. So are there any further comments from the commission before we end?
I'll tell you, on Walker Street, between the railroad and the center, north and south, I think those people went through a lot.
On Walker.
They always flood.
Yeah.
And then, isn't there a power station in that same,
You know, the
Yep.
Walker side.
that they can't even get
Right
to?
by the railroad track. You
Right.
could get to it, but it was tough. But
Anything,
those people went through a lot. There was terrible, horrible flooding in that area.
anything further?
No, sir.
All right. Just thank you so much to all of our staff that was on call during the hurricane. Can't thank you enough. So with that, if there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.